one of the first things I was confronted with in Nigeria was death. I was still young, I was 23, and I'd never met a funeral. I'd never been part of a funeral before. And when I arrived, I quickly met an old lady that was from West Indies, and her name was Suzanne Comhaire-Sylvain. She was married to a man that was Professor Comhaire, that was from Belgium. And she was working as a researcher on folktales in particular and oral literature from native West Indies. And because I was working also on folktales and oral literature, and I got interested and we started chatting, and she invited me to talk with her at home. And shortly after, she had an operation in this UNTH Enugu, this teaching hospital. And one of those days after the operation, as she was going for a routine visit, on the way back, she had a fatal accident, a car accident, and she died. And I was told, and I knew that there would be lying in state, that the body would be arriving from UNTH. So I went, and I was really devastated because it was the first friend I'd ever made on campus. And I entered the lounge, and I was completely shocked. It was full of women, and all these women were not crying, but actually laughing, chatting, talking, cracking jokes, eating, drinking soft drinks. And I was wondering what was going on. I couldn't make head or tail out of it. I was really disturbed. I was completely distraught. I couldn't even ask what it was all about. And then I noticed also a wreath that had been written with supposedly her name. But instead of writing her name Suzanne, that was a francophone name, written A-N-N-E, the wreath read Suzanne, S-U-S-A-N. And I thought, they don't even know her name. So it was completely beyond me. I was even more shocked. I felt like crying, yelling. And then the corpse arrived, and the husband, it was deposited in the lounge, at one place in the lounge, and the husband came very, very quickly in a matter of seconds and kissed the head of the deceased. And the women yelled, "Hey!" As to say, "Wow, horrible, horrible." And I couldn't take it, so I just left. And I continued thinking of this for quite a while. I couldn't ask my husband, and this is the problem when you change culture. The people from the culture are used to a particular behavior, a pattern, a cultural pattern, but they don't see anything particular about it. So if you ask why are they doing that, they are likely to say, well, that's the way it is. And they couldn't explain why. So I had to, meditate on this. And it took me quite a while. And obviously, in the meanwhile, what happened is that I joined the group of women in the church, local church. That was a Protestant church made up of Anglican, Presbyterian, and Methodists. And the women used to go to every wake keeping. Anytime somebody died on the campus was about 3,000 staff. At the time, we were just rebuilding from the Biafran War. And the women were going to visit every home where somebody had died. So we would sit there for hours on end, singing hymns, religious hymns, and then performing rites like running around with the enlarged picture of the deceased, asking where is it, where are you, and all this other stuff that was typically traditional. And obviously, as soon as we arrived, people would serve us drinks, and we used to drink soft drinks. And I went through the motions. I couldn't ask, why is it you are doing that? I just observed and performed like everybody else, sang, danced, you know. And gradually, I found out that actually it was something that was highly commendable. That what the purpose of these visitors was achieving was that the bereaved had to completely drop their emotions and sadness to attend to these people, welcome them, thanking them for being caring, and saying all the good things that the deceased had done on campus and otherwise. And they were so occupied that they had no time to think of something else. And at the same time, their house was completely overwhelmed with these visitors, so they had no really time to be left alone and sad. Whereas in the West nowadays, not like before obviously, but the modern world, so-called modern world, you find out that people die and the family is kind of just left alone, except few people that come to the burial ground. So it took a while, and actually it all came to a point when we lost our first son that was 7, and the women came, but they stayed all evening, and I felt really supported, because instead of dancing and drinking and all this, they spared us that. Instead, they sat with me in the lounge and started sharing their experience. I remember one saying, I lost 2 children. And all of a sudden, I felt that, one, I was not alone. Secondly, I was not the worst. There were others that had suffered so much more. And it humbled me, and I realized how much sadness these people had hidden. All this while I was meeting them at church and at outings. And they asked me whether I wanted them to stay all night, and I said, no, thank you very much. I think I need a rest. And they left, But it was one of those things that brought to me a lot in terms of discovery of the culture. And it helped me actually understand more as time went on, and I continued partaking of all this togetherness at wake keepings and crying. And the last thing I need to say actually was that I didn't know how much traumatized I was with this experience of near death all the time. It was a lasting memory. Not only that, but it put a mark on me to realize how fragile life is. So, something to thank God again.